When my grandfather was alive, this is my maternal grandfather. We called him Papa Hoot. My mother was in the habit of asking him questions that, for the most part, she already knew the answers to. Daddy, what was the name of the street that you lived on when you were a little boy? How long did you work for the telephone company? And so on. 90% of the time he would just utterly ignore her, which then caused her to repeat the questions again and again and again, getting louder and more nasal with every repeat. He was hard of hearing, you know. And then she would progressively add little reassuring phrases like, come on, as if she were coaxing a pet into its carrier to go to the vet. Sometimes he'd reluctantly answer after like the 10th attempt, no doubt in the hope that an answer would bring an end to the deposition, which it didn't. My mother could be quite persistent. If we were really lucky, though, she'd finally get to him and cause him to explode into a wild rage. As children, we could see this coming just by focusing on his jaw muscle, which would start to pulse as his irritation swelled, and then lock until he couldn't hold back anymore and roared, "Oh, cut it out, Barbara!" To which she'd come back with something like, "Now don't be cross," and repeat the question again, completely unbothered and unhindered. Now, even as this behavior baffled us as children, it was familiar and predictable enough for us to know when it was about to go down, such that we could position ourselves at a safe distance to observe. I mean, to us, he was always this grouchy old man who'd jab us with his cane when we came between him and the television, which we did a lot, seeing as their little TV room was the conduit between the backyard and the kitchen. And so it was astonishing for us to hear friends of my grandparents describe him as a downright happy fellow, a career telephone company man who moonlighted as a clarinet and sax player in a jazz band in like the 40s and 50s, maybe into the 60s, I'm not sure. And then I think he fell or something and had a stroke. This is before we came along anyway, and at that point he could no longer play. And I'm assuming that's when he became this grumpy dude with a cane. I say assume because a dramatic change in his personality was never openly discussed. Certainly, no one ever connected those dots for us, but with hindsight, it's easier for me to understand what my mother was after with all the annoying questions. She just wanted the old Hoot back. So, but then this one time, one of the few times I remember him actually answering a question on the first stab, she asked him what his favorite tune was, you know, to play with the band. Well, he answered with, dare I say something that verged on enthusiasm. Hindustan, he said. Well, I didn't know what the hell Hindustan was, but I remembered it because, well, as I said, it was, I think, the one time I recall him answering a question right away. So when my mom died a couple of years ago, tragically, we were cleaning out her house, and I basically grabbed a drawer full of old sheet music from a filing cabinet in her garage and shipped it to myself. My mother wasn't a hoarder, thank God, but she did tend to accumulate a few select things, sheet music being one of them. And so anyway, I finally got around to sorting through it all a few weeks ago, and although it was mostly really old piano vocal stuff, a little cheesy, sometimes a little racist, guess what I found? I mean, it's pretty ragged, but completely usable. And you know, I really had a ball with this fucking song. This old stride piano stuff it's kind of hard for me. The stuff I typically play lets you stay closer to the keys, and I like to keep my hands grounded to the keyboard mostly. So this stride left hand takes a pretty significant mental adjustment for me. Anyway, I think it's quite nice to stumble upon these little breadcrumbs that lead you closer to understanding something, or someone you may have misunderstood. I mean, there's no way that this could be the favorite tune of someone who was always a grump. Not a chance.